Most gardeners bury cardboard for the wrong reason, and it quietly sabotages their soil. One of the most common mistakes I see is gardeners burying cardboard because they were told it feeds the soil or adds carbon, without understanding what actually happens underground afterward. The result is often stalled plant growth, nitrogen deficiency, compacted layers that roots struggle to cross, and confusion about why a method that's praised everywhere doesn't seem to work in their beds. I've tested cardboard in real gardens, raised beds, and alongside hydroponic systems, and the truth is more nuanced than most advice makes it sound. Before we go deeper, if you care about growing better food through practical, tested methods, subscribe to the channel. This isn't about trends or hacks, it's about what holds up season after season. Cardboard doesn't behave like compost, and that's where people get misled. Cardboard is almost pure carbon. That sounds good in theory, but soil biology doesn't run on theory. When you bury cardboard, microbes immediately begin breaking it down, and those microbes need nitrogen to do that work. If the surrounding soil doesn't have enough available nitrogen, they pull it from the root zone. The plants pay the price first. In one of my early trials, I buried single-layer cardboard sheets about 6 inches deep in a vegetable bed with otherwise decent soil. Within about 3 weeks, leafy greens above those areas showed pale growth and slowed leaf expansion, while identical plants just a few feet away grew normally. The cardboard didn't poison anything. It just, starved the system temporarily. The depth and placement of cardboard determine whether it helps or harms. Most advice skips this detail, but honestly it matters more than anything else. Cardboard placed on the surface behaves very differently from cardboard buried deep. When laid on top as a mulch layer and covered with compost, it suppresses weeds and slowly breaks down without disrupting the root zone. But when buried below active roots, it creates a microbial nitrogen sink, exactly where plants need nutrients most. When I bury cardboard now, it's never higher than 8 to 10 inches below the surface, and only when there's a thick, nitrogen-rich layer above it. In a raised bed that's 12 inches deep, that means cardboard only goes at the very bottom, directly on native soil, never in the middle of the growing zone. What shocked me wasn't fast breakdown, but how long cardboard actually lasts. A lot of gardeners expect cardboard to disappear in weeks. That's not what happens underground. In heavy clay, I've dug up recognizable cardboard fragments more than a year later. In sandy soil with high biological activity, it breaks down faster, but still not evenly. The shock came when I realized that the cardboard was acting like a semi-permeable barrier long after I thought it was gone. Roots would grow along it, not through it, especially in compacted or dry conditions. That's not automatically bad, but it changes how water and roots move through the soil profile. Cardboard can improve soil structure, but only under specific conditions. In one bed with extremely compacted subsoil, placing cardboard at the bottom and building upward with compost, aged manure and leaf mold actually helped over time. Earthworms congregated at the interface. Fungal strands formed along the cardboard surface. After 2 seasons, the transition between native soil and added soil was looser and more biologically active. The key was that the cardboard was part of a layered system with enough nitrogen and moisture above it. When cardboard is used alone without that biological support, it just becomes a slow degrading sheet that interrupts normal soil flow. Moisture management determines whether cardboard becomes an asset or a liability. Dry cardboard repels water at first. Buried dry, it can create temporary perched water tables or dry zones depending on soil type. In one raised bed, uneven moisture above buried cardboard caused inconsistent germination and patchy growth. Now, any cardboard that goes into soil is soaked thoroughly first, not damp, fully saturated. That simple step changed outcomes dramatically. It allowed microbes to colonize immediately and prevented moisture disruption during the early stages. Nitrogen balance is the real deciding factor most advice ignores. If you bury cardboard without compensating nitrogen, you're borrowing fertility from the future. When I use cardboard intentionally, I pair it with measurable nitrogen sources. In a backyard bed, that might mean adding 2 to 3 inches of finished compost above the cardboard and supplementing with diluted fish emulsion during the first 4 weeks of planting. In practical terms, for a 4 by 8 foot raised bed, that's roughly 2 wheelbarrows of compost layered above the cardboard, followed by weekly liquid feeding at half strength for the first month. Without that, results are inconsistent at best. So cardboard behaves differently in raised beds than it does in in-ground gardens. Raised beds, well, they tend to amplify both the benefits and the problems, and because they're isolated systems, nutrient imbalance tends to show up much faster. When cardboard is used correctly at the bottom of a raised bed, it can actually slow nutrient leaching and, encourage downward root growth once it softens. But when it's used incorrectly, it creates a nutrient bottleneck. I've seen tomatoes in raised beds develop classic nitrogen deficiency, even though the soil tested rich overall, simply because the nitrogen was being consumed below the root zone by decomposers working away on buried cardboard. Hydroponic systems reveal what cardboard really does to nutrient cycles. I don't use cardboard directly in hydroponics, but, running soil beds and hydroponic systems side by side taught me something important. In hydroponics, nutrient drawdown is immediate and measurable. In soil, it's slower and, hidden. Cardboard decomposition behaves like a slow, uncontrolled nutrient sink. If you wouldn't accept that level of unpredictability in a nutrient reservoir, you shouldn't accept it blindly in soil either. That perspective alone changed how I evaluate soil amendments. Weed suppression is not the same thing as soil improvement. A lot of gardeners conflate the two. Cardboard is excellent at smothering weeds when used on the surface. That doesn't automatically make it a soil building amendment. Those are separate goals that honestly require different strategies. When weed suppression is the goal, surface cardboard with heavy organic mulch works well. When soil improvement is the goal, compost, aged organic matter, and biological diversity matter far more than buried paper products. The best results came when cardboard was treated as temporary infrastructure. The biggest shift for me was, stopping the idea that cardboard feeds soil. It doesn't. It shapes how soil biology behaves temporarily. When used intentionally, it can help establish new beds, suppress competition, and create zones of microbial activity. When used casually, it creates problems that take a season or more to correct. The difference isn't the cardboard, it's the context. I still use cardboard, but, sparingly and deliberately. It goes only at the bottom of new beds or right on the surface under heavy mulch. It's always soaked, and it's always paired with nitrogen-rich material above it. And honestly, I never expect it to improve soil by itself. When I stopped treating cardboard as compost and started treating it as a short-term structural tool, results stabilized, plant growth became predictable again, and soil life increased without robbing crops. This really matters if you care about long-term food production, not just quick fixes. Gardening advice spreads fast, but consequences show up slowly. Cardboard isn't magic, and it isn't harmful by default. It's a material with trade-offs, and understanding those trade-offs is what separates productive gardens from frustrating ones. If this kind of practical, experience-driven breakdown helps you grow better food, go ahead and subscribe to the Farm Logic channel and share this video with someone who's serious about their garden. The goal here isn't tricks, it's understanding systems well enough to make them work for you year after year.